Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. It is exactly 10 after 8 o'clock right here on Salam Media. News and views with me, Julie Ali. And of course, let's dive into the issues of the day. The issues just seem to get darker and bleaker and more gloomy. But I guess as human beings, we always try and find the light at the end of the tunnel and hope and pray that it will eventually shine and shine brightly indeed. We also look forward to the Mubarak days of Ramadan. The countdown has begun, 10 days to the month of Ramadan, an entire month of renewed hope, of love, forgiveness, and, just about new beginnings, not only for us as an ummah, but new beginnings for us as South Africans, new beginnings for people all around the world. So talking about new beginnings, we're looking around issues of the City of Tshwane, expected to elect a new council speaker and new beginnings for them as well. This in the wake of the position having been left vacant since February this year, after Dr. Murunwa Makwarela resigned following his short-lived election as the Metro's mayor. And of course, there's lots of question marks around his tenure, his very short tenure, and the expectations going forward. A very good morning to you, Professor Matebesi. Welcome to the program. And what do you make of this situation regarding once again having to elect a new council speaker in Tshwane?
Hi, good morning, Nadine. Good morning to your viewers. It's once again a very sad situation if you look at what is happening in Tshwane, and I strongly believe what is happening in Tshwane is actually indicative of how far we came as a democracy. I know it's coalition politics in South Africa, but at the end of the day, it's about time that these politicians are also putting the interest of the residents of Tshwane ahead of their own personal interest. For me, it's unacceptable. I strongly believe that at national level, there should be intervention. Otherwise, this vicious cycle of changing leaders and or speakers, mayors are definitely going to haunt not only Tshwane, but the rest of the country. Because if your major cities are collapsing in terms of governance, that would be is a recipe for disaster for many towns and local councils in South Africa.
Clearly, it seems that national government is not interested in any sort of interventions in these issues because we see it happening all around us. It seems as if they're all just busy protecting their own backs and trying to rake in as much of funds, money that they possibly can before their tenure comes to an end. Elections 2024 is around the corner, and I'm wondering if politicians and national government is not becoming very, very jittery.
Yes, that's the nature of our politics. The president has made very strong pronouncement about fighting corruption, but I can tell, and I'm putting my head on the block here, corruption is going on unabated in South Africa. As we're sitting here, millions and billions of rands are still finding its ways to private pockets, and that's the problem. Everyone who occupies a position, and especially at local government level, knows that they've only got 5 years and they want to destroy and take as much as they can. And that is unfortunate. And also this horse trading behind the scenes where politicians, political parties, you jockeying for position, who's going to occupy, mayoral positions and all that. But it's never about how can we tackle the issue of a lack of water provision to the residents, poor roads, and all that. It seems as if that is secondary, and it's a very unfortunate situation. And at the end of the day, we often blame the ruling party, but it's up to them to intervene here. We've got a new Kokta minister, hopefully, but this has always been the case. We always hope, but it seems as if our hopes are not even met halfway, and it's going to be the same situation yet once again.
Let's hope and pray that civil society makes their voices heard in the upcoming elections, because if we don't do the right thing by voting the right people into power, and have a strong opposition to the ANC, and make sure that the ANC doesn't get the votes, then there is still hope for the country to renew itself, because we're on our knees right now. It's just going to take a slight little shove before we're completely in the dust. But having said that, let's move back to the city of Tshwane, and let's look at the resignation of Makwarela. He resigned on the 10th of March as mayor, and this after it emerged that he submitted a fake court letter to the city manager regarding his insolvency status. What was that all about, and why is that issue important in his resignation as the mayor? Pardon, as
No,
the speaker.
yes, we should all understand that, it is it's the responsibility of political parties to vet their candidates, and the same should have happened with Makwarela by Cope to vet him, because once you've got any issue that disqualifies you to become a councillor, you need to declare that, and he didn't do that. And I don't want to go, because I'm not a legal guru, into the nitty gritties, the validity of the paper. But I mean, you don't need to be a legal expert to smell that something is bad is happening here, where he perhaps realized that he will be in trouble. And I just hope that he did not table a fraudulent document, because if that is the case, then I strongly believe that serious action needs to be taken against him, and serious action needs to be taken against the Congress of the People. They are always vocal about what is happening in our country, but one thing that is, it's a serious oversight which has huge implications for the residents of Tshwane, and also for South Africa. The reputational damage that some of these shenanigans have on the country, on potential investors. It's so huge that sometimes we don't even pay attention to that, but we only focus on Tshwane. They are marketing South Africa in the most horrendous way, by how in almost 3 decades after democracy, it seems as if we cannot get our house in order about basic things.
What troubles me very much about this scenario and all the other scenarios that have played out up until now is how we as South Africans have almost become desensitized to the issue around corruption, fraud, daylight robbery. Look what's happening with Eskom. Look what's happening to the rest of the country. We're just not making our voices heard strong enough. We need to take to the streets, and not necessarily the Julius Malema's voices that needs to be heard, because we know that those type of protests invariably end up in mass destruction of infrastructure. We don't need that. We need to have very strong and very silent marches, and maybe the time has come where that small base of taxpayers start withholding their taxes. If that is going to turn the country around, then that is what needs to be done. Your thoughts?
Yeah, most definitely. We have become a society which I would say it's very inactive when it comes to issues that really matters. We are couch politicians, And I like what you said when we say people should become activists, change agents. We don't necessarily mean they should go out and destroy. But I also want to touch base on what I know you mentioned. Bongani Baloy, you're going to interview her. For
Absolutely,
me,
yes.
that has also been a huge blow because it seems as if even our opposition are weakening. The opposition in South Africa has been very strong. Well, Musi Maimane was still at the Democratic Alliance. And what happened over the past 2 days with Action SA, it's a huge, huge, huge blow to South African politics. And we hope that the Baloyi will find his way back into politics because we really need people like that. The problem with South Africa is that we have relegated, we've handed over the power that we have to certain individuals that completely does not have our interest at heart. It is very painful sometimes when we speak about that. How on earth do you have such a bloated government which cannot? They had a policy conference, elective conference, but what are the ANC doing with the issue of crime? It's unacceptable how South Africans are being exposed to crime as if we are battling or involved in some war. And it's these kind of things where it seems as if issues such as corruption, crime, because we've overventilated them, now it seems as if it's part of our life. We should never accept that because that is very dangerous. Our country has been run by criminals and it seems as if it's normal. I mean, this whole stance of public relations exercises each time something may have happened by the police minister should come to an end. We want action. We want to see the police in the street, the South African Defence Force, and all that. But people who have been appointed in public, space positions should really come to the part. There should be consequence management, and unfortunately, that does not seem to be the case. And we haven't yet reached the stage where South Africans can use their power to vote out, a non-competent, incompetent organizations. Yet once again, we cannot decide who South Africans have to vote, but definitely after almost 3 decades, it seems as if we are not moving forward.
You raise a very important issue, which I am going to be bringing up with Bongani Beloy, and that is coalition governments. They don't seem to be working, and I'm wondering if that's not a deliberate attempt by the ruling party to make those coalitions ungovernable to suit their own selfish interests. But I'm going to pick that up with him in a later program, in a later interview. But I also want to digress here. You talk about the country being run by criminals. And for me, I'm going to be covering another story a little later on in the show regarding the 4-year-old little girl who died in a pit latrine in the Eastern Cape. This should never have happened. This should never have happened on any one of our watch, simply because the politicians, councillors, people in government are bloated. They're stealing money left, right, and center from you and I. And that poor little girl should never have lost her life because monies were budgeted to do away with pit latrines. And once again, this horrific scenario raises its head, and we find that a family in the Eastern Cape is now grieving the unnecessary loss of their 4-year-old child in a pit latrine. So, of course, I digress there, but I'm sure you have thoughts on that. And let's wrap up with my final statement regarding the issue of Tshwane and the new council speaker. The DA is saying that it's really important that the new political leadership is elected so that the municipality can focus on, here comes the big word, service delivery. Service delivery. We are not being provided with the service that we're paying for, and we're paying for at a very, very hefty rate. So your thoughts on all my comments this morning right here on News and Views.
Yes, I no, thanks for that. I strongly believe that the residents of Tshwane, they've done it in the past. We've seen how Gauteng residents, and in fact, in all these metropolitan municipalities, has punished parties who take them for granted. And I strongly believe that yet again, the next edition of the local government, they should watch the space. They should not look at who are actually pulling the carpet underneath their face, and they should punish them heavily. I know perhaps there aren't any credible alternatives, but it's unacceptable. The residents that do have power to remove these councillors. Otherwise, I strongly believe that it's about time that civic society, civil society organizations directly approach the Kokta minister. And even if it's a case of litigation so that these councils can be dissolved, because it seems as if they are just there playing bingo with the lives of people, because we only talk about service delivery. But service delivery sometimes, where people have access to undrinkable water, can lead to serious fatalities in the long run, cholera and stuff like that, which is also unacceptable when we talk about a constitutional democratic country. But it seems as if we are battling to do the basics and the basics of governance. Yeah.
And the issue around the 4-year-old child that died in the pit latrine, that is
Yeah,
totally unacceptable.
definitely unacceptable, but because that is it. A tender will never go to where it is needed, water infrastructure and all that. It will often go to where it is the easiest to steal money. And it's all these things that happen. There are municipalities, there are leaders that are, I would say, moral and conduct themselves in an ethically way. But there are too many crooks leading us, and that is the problem with South Africa.
South Africa, wake up before the country is, we are on our knees already, but before we right deep into the dust. Thank you indeed, Professor Matebesi. Always a pleasure talking to you. Till the next time, God bless.
Thank you. Thanks. Always.
The time is exactly 8:26. News and views right here on Salam Media. Nice to be with you on the show this morning. Standing by to talk to us is Bongani Baloyi, former Action SA Gauteng leader. Let's hear what has led to his resignation from the party. And I might add as well that I was shocked and saddened by this move regarding his resignation and what is going on with Action SA. My eyes was on that party. I can't Actually, they gave me hope. I was seriously thinking about maybe casting my vote for them come the 2024 elections. So, what on earth is going on there? In a minute or two, we will hear what Bongani Baloyi has to say about that matter.